Hello. So far in this course, you've heard me talk an awful lot about this idea of selling yourself for the job. Some people don't like that terminology because they think it sounds coarse or crude, or that you're giving up yourself to the employer. But I think it's really important that you understand that that's not exactly what you're doing. You're simply trying to prove to the employer that you are a good fit for their position. I think to frame this a little bit, I'll share a story with you about a student I had a few years ago who was doing an internship at a very respectable company here in New York City. And during her time on her internship there, they actually had an administrative assistant position that became open. Of course, she applied for the job and they gave her an interview, but she was one of 300 applicants that applied for that position. So if she didn't do a good job of selling herself for that position when she had the interview, there's no way that she had any chance of getting that job. And I think that's true in all elements of the job search, in developing your resume, in preparing for the interview, and actually going through the interview, and then selling yourself even after the interview with some techniques and methods that you can use. It's absolutely vital that you do these things if you have any chance of being considered for the position. So I think that's why you need to be able to understand that selling yourself for a position is very important. And ultimately, it comes down to giving an employer what he or she is wanting. I often use the analogy that an employer has a piece of their puzzle missing when they need a new employee, and you are trying to prove that you can be that puzzle piece that's missing. How can you fit their needs? How do you go about doing this? Well, there are many ways that you go about doing this. First and foremost is simply the idea of knowing what they're looking for. And you simply find that out by looking at the job description, studying it in great detail, studying the company, doing research on the company so you know what sort of fits with their culture, their climate, as well as what fits with their needs for whatever they produce or whatever service they provide for the community. So if you do those types of things, know the job description, know what the company is looking for, know what the company culture is like, I think you'll be able to do a lot better job of selling yourself for their needs. The second part of this is to know yourself really well. I think you need to sit down before you do any job searching and complete an inventory of what makes you who you are and why you're a good candidate. Obviously, you're not going to include irrelevant information that doesn't apply for this position. So, for example, if you have a forklift certification and this is an office job, obviously that doesn't fit. But I think when you take an inventory of your skills, you're trying to target that towards the position you're applying for. So what are you going to try to inventory? As I already said, you're going to inventory the skills that you have that they're looking for. Additionally, you want to take some time to inventory the education, the training, the certification that you might have that would make you a good fit. I think you also want to take some time thinking about the transferable skills you've had. Maybe you haven't worked in a job just like this one before, but maybe you've worked and had experiences with transferable skills from other positions that can transfer over. Skills such as leadership, communication skills, the ability to work as part of a team, all very important things that can transfer to many, many different jobs. And I think you also want to take into account the personal traits, or sometimes called the soft skills, that you can bring to an employer, because those are also very important and can be a difference as to whether you get a job or not. Ultimately, what you're trying to do with this inventory is coming up with the reasons why that employer should consider you. It's something you want to be able to articulate on your resume, through your cover letter, and then ultimately when you get to the interview itself. Selling yourself for the job doesn't necessarily sound the best, but it's incredibly important in the job market.